Welcome back to the podcast, Shatora.
Hi, so happy to be back.
One question I always like to ask every guest is, who do you say you are?
Ooh, who do I say I am? You know what? I think that evolves so much over time. In a nutshell, as far as business goes, just business development strategist, personal leadership development. I help people really get the business-ish together. So, in all the capacities that that holds.
That sounds interesting. I guess I was just thinking, and we were talking a little bit before, saying it's been almost 5 years since we've caught up in this platform, and the world is basically turned upside down. We went through a pandemic, like Chat
Sure.
GPT has become a thing, and just life just keeps evolving and growing.
It does. It does. Gosh, 5 years. Has it really been that long?
Yeah,
Time flies, but happy to be here.
for sure. I guess on the business front, since you've been in business development and helping other people as a leader, essentially, what what have you seen change over these past 5 years, and what is it this year that you're looking to offer people?
I love that now, instead of it just being so much information, I'll say that before, it seems like there was just a lot of information. Everybody was building a business. Everybody is doing, something new. And I think that the pandemic definitely showed people what they could do. But there were a lot of get rich quick and a lot of, okay, we've got to get this money now. And I believe that where we are right now, there's more of a, you got to show me, right? You've got to show me that this works. You've got to show me that this information is valid. And I can really appreciate that, especially being in my space, because it's like, hey, all the fluff's got to go. Now it's time to prove it. And so I appreciate that now. And I love the advancements of AI and all of the many things that it can do. But I also appreciate that it highlights, hey, this is where you got to step your game up.
Good points. You almost took me back there for a second talking about MySpace. I was like, oh man, going back to high school and before high school.
Oh man. Oh, so long ago. So long
Yeah,
ago.
but it's like technology seems to make things fly, but to the point and purpose that you said, it's when it comes to business or people wanting to do business for themselves or even business in a corporate setting, is that it really makes a difference if you can show, like, I guess people from the Missouri state, they say you got to show me what's going on and not just like talk to me or talk at me.
That part. That part. You got to show that you've actually done the work.
Right.
That it's not just the fluff. We've seen a lot of businesses just pop up, or you just got, your first million or something like that
Mm,
from the pandemic days. And now that that's kind of winding down, like, okay, now what? What do you
right.
have next? Are you able to innovate again?
Mm. I guess how does somebody know if they really need a business or if it's just something fun they're doing on the side?
Really, it's if you want to put in the work and you find yourself in that space to where it's consuming everything.
Mm,
I think that people who are more hobbyists, and which is perfectly fine, it's just owning up to, hey, this is just a hobby. You
right,
don't really
right.
care to learn more about the craft. You like to make the money from it, or you just
Mm,
like the fun side of it. Because while business is great, there is the behind the scenes of the business. And for someone who truly wants to be an entrepreneur or
mm.
truly wants to be a business owner, you have to be willing to put in the work. You have to be willing to be disciplined. And it requires a different type of mindset, the CEO rewired mindset.
Gotcha. I guess with that, like, what type of people have you run into when you've gone through the process of coaching individuals and also coaching people to develop their own businesses?
So I coach from several different levels. One of the first levels would be those that come through the Rewired University. And so that's for those people who are tired of just dabbling in the business a little bit. They're ready to really solidify it.
Hmm.
And so they're the aspiring entrepreneurs, the newer ones that really just need a roadmap to understand how to go from this thing being a hobby and having a fully fledged out business, a business plan that you
Mm,
can continue to come back to as you grow and evolve. And then the next level of people that I usually work with, those are the entrepreneurs who have been out here. They've been in the game for a bit. It's time to scale. It's time to revamp the business a little bit. And I usually host the VIP days with them.
mm,
And then for those who are, okay, I've been there, I've done that, I'm in leadership, things are flowing, that's where the CEO Rewired comes from. And that's you really taking a look at who you are as a leader and what you can do to continue to innovate and make your workspace a place where people really want to come and grow.
mm. That's that's pretty neat. I like how you structured that. It's very straightforward and to the point.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I try.
I guess how did you was it like trial and error for you to come up with those 3 tiers, or what is it that you did before that helped you say, "Okay, this is the direction in which I wanna go?"
Oh man. So actually, God gave me this vision 13 years ago.
Oh,
And
wow.
I didn't know that the different parts of the business that I was working on would eventually come together and streamline themselves.
Right.
So I really, I'm excited to be able to share my gift. I always knew I was a teacher.
Mm,
I was a facilitator, and the thing that I found myself helping people do and the thing that people came to me for was to always help them launch whatever they were doing, build whatever they were doing from scratch. And my mind works in a very systematic way.
mhm,
So for me, it's like, boom, I can see exactly how to get there. And these are the contingency plans you need to have in place. And so, yeah, this was God given. And eventually, he put it all in my lap, and I was waiting on the confetti to fall when I finally realized, oh, this is my full business. This is this is my empire.
mhm,
And there was no confetti. It was like God just saying, okay, go do
mm.
it.
That's a good point. I guess sometimes you wait for that, like, not just the aha moment, but, like, the rose petals to be thrown at you and, like, the rice thrown over your shoulder.
Right. And that's not it. It's like, okay, you know how to do the work, go do it. Go make an impact. Go build up other people's lives.
Gotcha. And I'm guessing with this, like, some of what you've done before, because I think when we spoke the first time, we talked about having a growth mindset and not a fixed mindset. And it was funny hearing that from one of the guys in a men's group I'm a part of. And I was telling them that coming out of the winter season, I just looked at kind of where I was, and it's just a lot of doubt and trepidation kind of going on with that. And one of the things one of the guys said, it's like, well, you got to look at it whether are you having a growth mindset or are you having a fixed mindset, and it kind of took me back to our very first conversation.
Absolutely. And I think now with the advancements of AI, you have to be in a growth mindset to at least hang on the curve of wherever the world is taking us now. And
Mm,
being able to be a part of that, being able to spearhead a part of that, I think is very, very essential to keeping yourself at the top of your game right now.
gotcha. I guess the reason that I brought up the part about the growth mindset, I guess, how do you distinguish having the right mindset in order to take you forward versus looking at everything else that's going on around you and being like, wow, this is overwhelming. I'm behind. I'm behind. I'm behind. And then you start thinking, I'm never going to catch up. I'm not good enough. And then all this doubt starts
Yeah.
to creep in for a life that you're not really living. But then you start living a nightmare that you couldn't have imagined before, but you've kind of created in your own mind.
Yeah. I one thing is there's two sides of that gate.
Mm,
The one side is if you're someone who feels like you don't have it all together, you're not sure what to do, you're actually in a really great spot because then you're open to learn, or at least you should be. You're open to learn, you're open to doing the things to grow, and it's about your environment. I'm sure you hear that all the time, that who you place yourself around, your closest five people, you need that external motivation if it's not coming from within. And being able to recognize that, not procrastinate on it, and just start taking some action is what moves you from that space. But then there's also the flip side of that when you have done so much and imposter syndrome starts to kick in, or you're around so many other entrepreneurs who you thought what you were doing was great, and then you see them doing something even greater, you got to turn that into fuel to be like, okay, let me go a little bit harder in what I'm doing right now. Let me push it as
Mm,
far as I can go.
right.
And being able to balance that, and knowing who you are as a person, knowing what you're here to offer
Mm,
doesn't have to look like somebody else's.
that's a great point. I guess it always kind of comes back to that. It's like knowing yourself and knowing where you're going. Because I guess sometimes, or I guess all the time, like they say, comparison is a thief of joy. And you could be thinking someone's doing something on the outside, but then when you start looking at the background, it's like, oh, okay. There's
Yep.
just somebody behind the curtain moving things around. It's not like a big old industry, so to speak.
Yeah, it's not built out. And that's one of the main parts about the university. It's not just having this nice, showy business up front, but we're really going through and making sure the foundation is set right. We're
Mm,
making sure that, you have not only the legal things in place, you know how to capture your leads, you know how to collaborate with someone else, you know how to truly build a funnel. So you have all of those bits and pieces, rather than just being able to look at them. You can put them together like the puzzle that it is.
that's a good point. And I think I took a look at your one of the ads that you'd put out. And as I was listening to you talk through it, I was like, that makes exact sense. Like I pulled back on jumping on it because one of the things that I know from the time I started the podcast and getting into Breathe University, getting around people that are looking to improve themselves, I'm always one to start a new thing,
Mm.
but not give myself enough time to like figure out what is it about what I'm doing that's currently working? And then even in reading this book recently, it's 10x is better than 2x. It's talking about how do I optimize what I'm doing and actually get more out of doing less. So if we listen to the 80/20 rule, it's like 20% of what I do actually gives me 80% of my results. And then if I want that 80%, at the same time, I have to be willing to do 80% less of the things that I'm currently doing. And when I just listened to that recently, I was like, wow, okay. So a lot of things that I'm doing in my life right now, I'm going to have to part ways with and just be like, okay, well, this isn't going to take me to where I think I want to go. And if I'm not able to do that, I have to be honest about maybe I don't really want or need that thing that I say that I want. Maybe I just got the idea from like watching somebody else's life and just like maybe coveting that and be like, oh, it really looks nice. It sounds good. And maybe it's not for me, but then again, it goes back to like you're saying, how do you talk to yourself and where is it that you are? Who is it that you are?
Yeah. And so one of the main reasons that I put the Business Rewired University together was because there are so many people who are out there just, again, trying to figure things out, trying to dabble in a few things. And the first part before you even get into the university is really seeing, is this what you want?
Mm,
And we go through a full-blown questionnaire. We have our calls trying to figure out, is this something that you want? Is this the thing that you're sticking to? And
mm,
then cutting the fat. What can we do to start making you money right now? Because
right.
most entrepreneurs get into the business that they're doing either because they're trying to solve a problem or because they're trying to make the money, or a little bit of both. And those are the things that anchor you in,
Mm,
having that why and being able to see a return from it.
right.
And so one of the big differences that I see is that most courses just tell you, hey, here's how to do it. Here's a self-paced, here's a whatever course.
Mm,
And just like with most things that are self-paced, if you were going to do it, you would have done it. Or you're just reading through, listening through videos real quick, and you're not actually applying. And so with the university, we take a full 90 days. We're meeting every single week to knock out the next thing on the list
mm,
and have me there to coach you. So when you have questions that come up, you're not just left alone with a bunch of videos and maybe a few links and resources. You're actually able to come in, have a business coach to talk to, and really move yourself forward with another community of people who are also pushing you forward as well.
wow. It's pretty neat. Have you had to decline anyone's application?
I haven't had to, but I do know exactly who I don't work with. And I
Mm,
think that's just as important as knowing who you work with is
right.
knowing who you don't work with, because there are clients from hell. It
Mm,
happens. And that usually comes from either the price that you placed your offer at.
mm,
It could come from just not being a personality match. I know that in business coaching and business strategy, if you don't see a vision similar to how your coach sees it, or
mm,
your coach doesn't see your vision, it makes it very, very difficult to grow something with someone where there's already friction, or they're
right.
not what, the vision that you have.
Yeah. It's almost like why start a losing battle?
Right. Right.
That's
That's
a good
exactly.
point. I guess it kind of plays to your strength because going back to using things like the disc to be able to do what would you say, like corporate training or curriculum where you come in and you train someone's team is like, okay, hey, here's how this person communicates, or here's how this person likes to be communicated to, and you would get more um out of this person, or you would be able to communicate with them in a fuller way if you use these tools. So like being able to take that and apply it now in the business sense to where you're, I guess, would you say you're recreating yourself in a way, or like you're helping people become versions of you, or take some of the tools that you've acquired over the years and putting it in their hands or showing them how to use those tools?
I think it's a matter of seeing who they are
Mhm.
and bringing out the parts of them that they wish they could share with the world, that they want to be able to put out there. Because a lot of times we're either so focused on the business that we forget to be creative, or we're so focused on being creative that we set the business aside. And
Mm.
knowing those parts of your personality can be essential to your growth, because once you learn how to balance both, then you're able to work as you need to build and grow not only yourself but also to grow your business.
Very well said. And I gotta commend you for good listening skills because I was like, I'm sure I just strung two sentences together, but you got the gist of what I was trying to say.
But I do.
Awesome. So, what is it that you're looking forward to now when we're starting a new month? We're on the back half of 2024. And I know having a mindset, you always have like a plan ahead, like a plan for the day and a plan for like the month. So, what
Yeah.
is it that's on your radar?
So the next thing is that we're moving into partnerships and white labels. So me being a teacher, the facilitator that I am, being able to come up with different curriculums that really hit the mark. It's not just leaving someone floating out there. Those are the things that I love to put together. And I wish everyone had a rewired program inside of their program, inside of what they're doing. So moving into the space of being able to partner to where people can license out my curriculums, and I certify those trainers, things like that, or white labeling altogether so that they can have the full rewired program, but of course, under their brand, under their label.
I like that. I like that very much. And to
Okay.
that point, one of the things that caught my attention about your program is that you're looking at also doing the legality of it. Because one thing that you mentioned for business is like you can get so caught up in the creativeness of it, you forget that, oh, like this needs to be official. This needs to be registered. This needs to be trademark if what you're doing requires that. And then you don't run into something down the line of like, oh, somebody bought up my domain name or somebody else has this. It's like, did you go through the first 5 bullet point checklist? If not, then you could have saved yourself thousands, if not millions of dollars down the line.
Yeah, and that actually happened to me, which is why I think it's so important. So, um, there was someone who saw me speak,
Mhm,
and of course, they love the Rewired name. There's Business Rewired, CEO Rewired, Training Rewired.
mhm,
And before the opportunity for me to purchase the Business Rewired domain, they purchased it. And
mhm.
fortunately, I'm, in the trademarking, all of that's getting taken care of. But from just the domain perspective, I had my name, Shatora Ladorne,
Mhm.
but I didn't have my business's name and all of that, domains and all of those things. So I ended up reaching out to see what the cost was. He was trying to charge like $1,800 just for me to have business rewired. And I was like, well, guess what? Now it's your business
Yeah.
rewired. And it gets even better. So I'm
Nice.
not paying 1,800 for that, but that just shows the importance of, especially when you have something great, to make sure that you have it protected. Because
Right.
behind the legalese, then there's also systems.
Mhm.
Business is a system in itself, and having a system to everything that you do. And that's not just the tech stuff.
Right.
That's really being able to systematize all of the different parts of the business so that you don't drive yourself nuts trying to grow it.
That's a good point because I guess sometimes I can stomach listening to understanding why you have systems. Like, say, if you're driving down the road, there's a reason we have like roadway signs. There's a reasons you have lanes so that people kind of get from point A to point B as safely as possible. But I know other times it's like if you're not familiar with the purpose of something, it kind of seems like, oh, like, why do I need to follow all these rules? Like, let me just go and do my thing. But it's like, you can do your thing, but someone else has already thought in advance to say, okay, well, if the wind blows wrong, I'm just going to sue you, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. And it's like, well, if you're protected legally, then they can't come after you personally. And knowing something like that, or even having an experience like you mentioned, it teaches you one of two lessons of like either this is why I need to do this, or because this happened, here's how I keep it from happening again.
Absolutely. And when you were talking about personality, I think that's kind of how you have to look at your business. When you look, even just using the disc model, for example, the D, that's that dominant, that's the go-getter in you, the one that's going to, get out there and really push the business. But then you also need the I, the one
Mm,
who's influential, the one who's a people person. That's you and your creative self, and the you that's willing to go and collaborate with people. And
mm,
then the S, that's the steady. But in business, you have to be flexible and adaptable to so many different things. And then your C, that's
mm,
cautious, being able to dot your I's, cross your T's, and make sure that everything's right. And when you can have that full circle running in your business, and you yourself as a leader can run your business in that way, you're
mm.
able to really have more of a fully functioning, systemized business as well.
Gotcha. That
Well done.
makes that makes good sense. And with that, having the university format, do you try to pair up any people that you see with like similar or dissimilar personalities?
I try to pair up everyone. I
Mm,
say you never know who is in here that is essential to you, and you may not even think twice about it. So we actually do a Dream with Me workshop
mm,
where we do get to know each other, get to know each other's visions, because people are the resource. People really do. You might have a friend of a friend who has something that that person needs, and vice versa. In this last iteration of the university, there were two women doing like gift boxes or
mm,
gifts in general, commemoration items, but they're on two sides of the gate. But
mm.
they're able to come together and just bounce ideas off of each other that in turn make it better, because you never know how the ice cream shop and the car wash can come together and be able to make this grand experience. But
Right.
you're to pull different things from that business to put into the other and
Yeah.
really grow something special in your own business.
That's a pretty funny analogy because as soon as you said it, I was like, I wouldn't have thought of those two businesses being a thing, but now I can see myself going through a car wash eating ice cream because I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. The car's being
Right.
washed and I'm enjoying a scoop of ice cream.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly it. Like, why not?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And
And
even just taking some of the systems, one from the other, being able to have all of your different layouts of the ice cream is the same as having your different layouts of the different types of washes and other perks
mm,
that you get. And then, again, vice versa, maybe just having that drive through ice cream parlor versus where everyone does have to come in.
right, right.
You never
I,
know. Always different pieces to be used.
yeah, I guess we could nerd out for a second because there's this movie I saw it maybe a few years ago now. It's called The Founder about McDonald's and how it was essentially discovered or overtaken to turn from like a fast
Overtaken.
food turned into like a fast food restaurant into more of a real estate business. And you look at like, okay, at the beginning, the quality was good for what it was because the founders essentially had a system that they automated. I forget if it was military based or they had it so efficient to say, okay, this is where you're going to make the French fries, this is where you're going to make the burgers, and this is exactly the amount and the quantity that you get. And even the guy that's being introduced to it, it's like, wait, you're giving me my food in a bag, and I just I just take it and I go and like this is weird. Like I don't sit down with like a plate, silverware and everything like that. I can just eat this out of a bag. It's like this foreign concept. So like just seeing something like that and then you add another person to it and then they put their spin on it. It's like, wow, like who would have thought the reason you see McDonald's at every single street corner now is because they're more into the real estate than it is what it started out as.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's the power of people. That's the power of being able to not only express what your business is and where you're trying to go with it, but also just being
Yeah,
open to hear other people's ideas and, taking what you need from each.
that's a great point. I think one thing doing this podcast has taught me is like learning the people that I've met in my life and just seeing what a little bit into everyone's life, like what they're about or what it is that they enjoy. So that's very cool.
Yeah. I love that. That's one of my favorite things about different podcasts. You get the opportunity to take a small peek into different people's lives. And then of course the title of your podcast, like it's my time to shine. And I feel like, hey, when it's your time, run it.
Yeah,
Run it up.
great point. Is there anything I missed about the university or anything that has happened with you this year you'd like to share?
No, open enrollment is monthly. So, definitely join in, get in. I do have the business launch quick start. So, if you're not sure if you're ready to jump fully into the university, the business launch quick start is there to help you do just that. Put some of those pieces together and get a quick start. And it's a taste of what you would get into the university.
Awesome. And how can people find it? Where would they go?
Yes. So you can go to yourbusinessrewired.com, click on university. If you want the business launch quick start, it is just that easy. Rewiredcourses.com/business launch quick start.
Awesome. And I appreciate you doing this. I know it was kind of impromptu, but you always seem to be game when it comes to business.
Absolutely. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
I like it. And like we started the podcast, are you still who you said you were?
I am. I think I'm even more of who I said I was.
Mm,
I think I've explored myself enough and I've taken certain pieces of me apart and rebuilt them to be an even better version of who I was.
awesome. I like it. Well, I wish you best of luck with the launch and with enrollment and everything of that sort. Look forward to seeing your progress along the way.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
You're very welcome.